When we open the book of Leviticus, the very first word that we read is Vayikra. God calls out to Moses. But Rashi points out something fascinating from the text itself. Usually we see the words of daber, speak, omer, says, tzav, command. But here, God is calling. In this case, he's calling to Moses, and the Midrash teaches us that Moses was not, in fact, in front of the tent of meetings. He was somewhere else. He was perhaps off to the side. And it reminds me of yet another moment where Moses happened to have been off to the side. And God called out to Moses. And that instance was the moment of the burning bush. In both cases, where Moses is off to the side of the tent of meetings and Moses is walking next to the burning bush, we fail to know something. We don't know how frequently Moses walked past the burning bush. How long was that bush, in fact, burning? And when Moses was outside of the tent of meetings, we don't know for how long he was standing there. Was it a minute? Was it 5 minutes? Did God have to call out once? Did God have to call out and say, pay attention, Moses, this is going on. You're needed now. We don't know. But it begs the question and makes me at least think about the moments in our lives when we are looking for our keys. And I'm sure you know what I'm talking about. They're right in front of your face, but you just don't see it. It's kind of like you need them to be calling out to you with flashing lights. Or those moments when you are sure you put something away, like I did a while ago when I first moved here. I put all of my kids and my passports away in such a fashion that they would not get lost in the move. And of course, lo and behold, what's lost in the move? The passports. The truth is that sometimes we need to be called out. We get absolutely distracted and find ourselves unable to either look for things that are right in front of our face, or we get distracted in our own thoughts to the point that we kind of feel like we've got the broken record going on inside of our heads. And well, we can't be effective leaders like Moses was, or we can't be effective human beings in our lives like we wish we would be. Instead, we're focused on something else entirely. There's this whole thought process, I don't know if you pay attention on TikTok, around the idea and question of manifestation. If I say it, I will manifest it into my life. But what we're learning is that the neuroscience behind manifestation isn't so much that if you say it, you'll manifest it. Most likely, the thing that you're manifesting is probably already in your life. The truth is that you're off in your thoughts. You can't think about what's really in front of you because you're anxious, you're distracted, you're wondering what's going on. And so the idea really is that if you're able to close down the swirling dervish in our heads, then maybe we too can see and find those lost keys in front of us, or the envelope of passports, which, by the way, I've had to just go ahead and suck it up, Buttercup, and get some new ones for everybody. The truth is that we get distracted. We get lost. And the idea is sometimes we need to be called out, whether it's God calling us out from the burning bush or the tent of meetings, or one time I heard from somebody, if God's going to call you out because you haven't learned the lesson, that lesson gets more and more intense, and that shout from God gets more and more intense. What we ultimately learn, I guess, from Moses in both the tent of meetings and the burning bush was that, yes, he obviously at that moment needed to be called out, but what he subsequently had to be able to do was adjust himself so that he could hear God. In the case of the burning bush, we see that Moses turns himself, takes off his shoes, walks toward the bush. In the case of Vayikra, at the beginning of the book of Leviticus, we also see that Moses must, at least according to the Midrash, shifted or done something of himself, because then he was able to hear God speaking to him. Either way, Moses had to do something to prepare himself. And sometimes if we want something in our life, we too must do something to prepare ourselves. We have to really figure out a process or a system so that we don't lose the keys, figure out how to function so that we can slow the whirling dervish in our head. And we have to really be able to prepare ourselves to hear that call of God so that we are ready to respond. And lastly, after we've prepared ourselves, after we've slowed the whirling dervish, finally, maybe we'll be able and ready to receive the message that, in this case, God was sending to Moses, or maybe in our case to ourselves. Maybe we'll finally be able to and ready to see what's been clearly in front of our face for so many years or so many times, that for whatever reason, we just weren't prepared prior to see. But after preparing ourselves, we're finally ready to see it. We're finally ready to hear it. And most importantly, we're finally ready to accept it. So as we look at the book of Leviticus, a book which leads us from the book of Exodus, which talked all about how it ended with the building of the tabernacle and the structure of how things were supposed to be, we enter the manual of how to work within that structure, the manual of how to prepare ourselves ritually, the manual of how to get ourselves able to hopefully see what's in front of us, the idea that when we do something, we do so with a clear mind, open eyes, open heart, and willing ears. As we enter this journey of Leviticus, may we be open to receive the messages and parts that, as we turn through those pages yet again, we haven't quite seen before, so that they can help fulfill us and bring us to our highest self. Ken Yehi Ratzon, may this be God's will.